Building these native war clubs here, and the reason they built these things really had a big bopper on the end. Now, a lot of people think it's because, you know, they wanted to kill a guy, which, you know, it'd be true, you know, if you could. But the real reason these guys had these huge clubs and these huge boppers, the reason they put rocks on the end, and then, you know, as they got more, you know, access to white materials, Asian materials coming over, they would load the ends with molten metal, and they would fix spikes and nails. So, you know, like a real common one here, you know, would be to get like a boat nail and sharpen it on both sides and stick it out so it came out about that hard. And we're not going to do anything like that. That's a little too menacing. I want this to sit in the corner, maybe be used as a walking stick, and occasionally like fend off a bear. But the reason they made them so stout, and they looked for the hardest wood they could find, hardwood and, you know, real heavy wood, is that people don't realize these natives, right, had full armor when they were doing battles a lot of times. I mean, they had all these slaves. They could make whatever they wanted. And they would just have this full armor. Now, if you want to see what full armor looks like for a native warrior of the time, you really got to go, and it's crazy. It's one of the most inaccessible collections ever, but it's in Russia, I believe in St. Petersburg, and there's a museum there with just dozens of relics, dozens and dozens of relics from the first contact with Vitus Bering and all those guys. And they took all the stuff they took as spoils of war, they took back to give to the king, or they kept and then ended up being donated by their families later on. And that's the thing about this. People don't realize these natives were doing battle in full cedar armor. They had planks, they had helmets. You'll look at this and it'll just blow your mind. It looks like something from feudal Japan. You know, and there could be some connections there because there's a lot of similarities in the way they layered their armor, the way they did it. So the reason they had these big clubs, and it's kind of the reason today, you know, if you're going against somebody in full tactical body armor or full riot gear, you hit them with a little baseball bat, it ain't going to do as much, you know, but you hit them with a weighted club, it might ring through their armor. And that's why they did this. They were fighting people in armor. And so, like, if you weren't in armor, and you had to have something to kind of ring through, like sneak up and get them in the head or bap them. And so that's the reason they did this. So if you get a chance, get online, look up Russian or Alaskan artifacts at the Russian Museum in St. Petersburg. You'll see what I'm talking about. It's a whole weird thing.